Author's note: filling in the blanks is necessary in order to flesh out Sybil's story. The skeleton of the story is the history of battles and life in Dutchess, Westchester, and Fairfield counties during the American Revolution. It's true that George Washington and John Jay were the brains behind many intelligence schemes and spy rings. The codes and secret message techniques included here were used by them. The participation of Colonel Henry Ludington's 7th Regiment in different battles and wartime activities is well documented and forms another part of this story's framework. Many of the characters in this story are based on people who really lived at this time, including Dr. Prosser, whose men surrounded the Ludington house and were fooled by shadows, and Solomon Hopkins, who left an upstairs window open in case Enoch Crosby needed a refuge. Margaret Corbin, the first woman to draw a military pension in recognition of her bravery at the Battle of Fort Washington, is also mentioned and might have been an inspiration to the real Sybil. Their stories endure here with a grain of salt. These began as oral histories and have no doubt changed in the telling. Although Solomon Hopkins, the Hazens, the Carvers, and others appear on the roster of Ludington's regiment, little is known about them. I invented their personalities, relationships, and activities, including Eleazar Hazen's desertion and Timmy's death. Although events like these happened during this battle, we don't know what really happened to the people. Hannah and Peaceable are made-up characters, but they represent types of people who lived in Dutchess County during the Revolution. So many were part of what happened behind the scenes during this war, including women, African Americans, servants, and Quakers, that I wanted to suggest their importance in history. Much of what is told here about Enoch Crosby is true, including the story of how he became a double agent. He was known to have been a friend to Henry Ludington, and there are stories of him sharing codes with the Ludington daughters. There is no evidence of a real romance between him and Sybil, but it seemed to me that he would have been a hero to her and maybe more. We can see a stamp from 1975 dedicated to Sybil Ludington. Sybil and Becky were known to be good shots with muskets and to patrol their family home. The tale of Prosser's men hiding in the woods comes from the family biography, as does a later scene, not in this book, in which Colonel Ludington catches up to Prosser and confronts him, horsewhip in hand. Enoch settled down near his parents' farm. Sybil grew up and married Edmund Ogden and moved to Catskill, New York, where people didn't talk about her or make conjectures about her secrets. When Edmund took ill and died in 1799, she held things together for her son Henry's sake, running a tavern on her own and taking no guff from farmer, trader, or trapper. Same old Sybil. Edmund had fought in the militia during the American Revolution. After his death, when it came time to apply for a pension in 1838, Sybil couldn't produce the papers that proved their marriage. So she, who had mustered the militia for a key battle, was left in poverty. With nothing to live on, Sybil went home to the house on the hill above Shaw's Pond and ran the farm for Mama and Papa until their deaths, and afterward until her own. Historians searching for women's contributions give a number of reasons that their deeds are lost to posterity. First, maybe women weren't looking for recognition, honor, or fame. They didn't want the attention, good or bad, that could come from talking about their activities or heroism. Second, in these times, it wasn't always wise to come down too clearly on either side. Who knew which side would ultimately dominate, and then what would happen to the doers of deeds? Of course, this particular problem was shared by men. Third, women were second-class citizens. Along with Quakers, servants, and slaves, their deeds didn't matter as much, but maybe that gave them an edge. Who would believe, after all, that a 16-year-old girl could ride 40 miles to bring out a 400-man militia, all in one night? I do. Do you? Here is a statue commemorating Sybil Ludington that stands in Carmel, New York.